I had lived with low back pain for decades, really. It was just kind of always there. And there was one day about 3 or 4 months after I started the program where I was talking with friends, and we were just standing outside talking, and I realized that my back didn't hurt. And I started thinking, and I realized it hadn't hurt all week.
Oh my gosh.
So, and I almost fell apart. It's a big deal.
Welcome back to another episode with The Perfect Workout. I'm Jordan Thompson, and in today's feature, I sit down with our client Doug McGrath from the Bay Area in California, and we dive into his particularly moving story about how he went from not feeling good about himself to being fairly depressed, little overweight, and totally inactive, to gaining a significant amount of muscle and a ton of self-confidence at The Perfect Workout. Stick around to hear his story.
It started just a little over 3 years ago. I started in January 3 years ago, and I'd been hearing the ads on the radio for quite a while, and I was intrigued. And I also had my dental hygienist, actually, we were chatting about it one day, and she mentioned that she and her husband had both joined the program at one time. They hadn't stayed with it, but they liked it, and they were happy with the results and everything. So what actually happened was I kind of went through a bit of an emotional thing and when I get depressed, I don't eat, which is kind of nice to have that rather than the opposite. I lost almost 20 pounds.
Oh, wow.
In just a few weeks. And when I kind of snapped out of that, I decided I wanted to try and build that up into something better. And so I joined and love it. It's been fantastic. It's been a perfect program for me. Absolutely.
No pun intended.
So, and my first trainer was Aurelio Rosas, who is now down in the Rancho Bernardo location. And he was just an amazing fit for me. We got along really well, and he was phenomenal. So I was really, really happy with it, and I've stuck with it. And it's just a part of my life now, so I'm not going anywhere. I was really glad to do the virtual sessions too. I was a little skeptical too about the virtual sessions, but oh my God, they're intense.
Yeah, and I definitely want to get into that, but I would love to learn a little bit more about before you actually came to the Perfect Workout. Were you doing anything in terms of exercise, or were you active at all?
Not particularly. I'm a scuba diver, but I would go diving once a year. I would come home in better shape than I left because I was actually exercising every day. But mostly I've never really had a fitness program as an adult. I did the AIDS Life Cycle, the bike ride from San Francisco to Los Angeles. I've done that twice. The first time was about 15 years ago. And I trained for that. So that was really the only time in my adult life where I've had a regular training regimen. And when I came back to Perfect Workout, when I started Perfect Workout, one of my goals was to do that again. And I had about a year and a half of the weight training, and it made a huge difference on the ride. Instead of just riding a bike and training with cardio, having the extra strength in my legs really made a big difference. It was noticeable, even though I was 13 years older.
So what was that difference between the first time you had done it and doing it a second time, having strength trained the year before?
The hills on the second time were so much easier. There's a big hill in the middle of the ride. It's on day 3, and it's called Quad Buster, and everybody talks about it because it basically goes straight up for a mile and a half.
Oh my God.
And there's most hills, they have a little bit of a, they flatten out a little bit, and you get a little break. This one does not. It just goes up. I know when I did it, and I was 40 at the time, the first time, I probably stopped every 15 feet to catch my breath. It's that hard. And the next time, which was a little over a year and a half ago, I stopped twice in the entire hill. And it was over a mile?
Wow.
It's a long ways up. Yeah, it's about a 1.25 mile stretch of just climbing, and I only had to stop twice. So Yeah, it made a just huge difference, and it was really obvious even like the first time I did the ride, the smaller hills would still tire me out. There's still always a lot of work, and there was still work on the second one, but it was noticeably easier. I didn't have to stop and rest as much. I didn't get winded as much. So yeah, it was a big difference.
That's awesome. So what made you choose, especially not coming from having a particular fitness routine before? I mean, definitely sounds like you're active and do a lot of really cool recreational stuff. But what made you choose this very non-traditional approach to exercise?
There were really two things. I mean, I had actually technically joined a gym a couple of times,
Mm-hmm.
and I only ever went once or twice. I didn't feel like I knew what I was doing,
Yeah.
and I don't like not knowing what I'm doing when there's other people watching.
Yeah.
So, and also earlier in my life, I felt like I couldn't really afford a trainer. So, so that was, you know, if I had a trainer back all those years ago, it would be a different story. But it just always seemed out of reach at the time. But I didn't like the gym environment, and you know, I felt uncomfortable and I felt awkward, and it also seemed like it was a lot of time. You know, the time was a big factor as well. So having these condensed workouts that are super intense, but only, you know, less than a half an hour, and the studio is 5 minutes from work and actually 5 minutes from home. It's really great. So everything just worked out to make it a good fit for me.
Yeah. So it was really like the idea of somebody leading you, training you, having that person giving you that undivided attention. Was that the biggest draw for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes sense too that, you know, focusing on the weight training with a trainer makes sense to me. You know, my friends who use trainers in traditional gyms, you know, they're putting them on a treadmill for 20 minutes or on a bike. And it's like, you don't need somebody to watch you do that. That's just a waste of your money. So this was a really good fit for me.
Yeah. So what's that experience been like working? It sounds like you worked with a couple different people, whether that's Aurelio or Carlos. What's your favorite part about working with a trainer?
I've learned a lot. There's lots. I mean, there's the basics of weightlifting aren't that complicated, but then there's all these little details that in you know, changing an angle just slightly will make it more intense or less intense or safer, or and I have knee problems, and their ability and knowledge to work around that and still give me a good workout was phenomenal. The encouragement helps too, but I think it's kind of being monitored, and they push me. They ask me for more than I would give on my own.
Absolutely.
And they know, but they're also really good at knowing when I can't do more.
When to back off.
Yeah, and that was particularly, I mean, it's true of all of them, but I think Aurelio was really top notch at that. He knew way better than me what I had to give, which was a really interesting thing. And then there's all these little technical details that, you know, in different types of exercises and different ways to hit the muscles and things like that I would never dream of.
Yeah.
So that's been great.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about the one-on-one aspect. Obviously, it was a time convenience thing for you. I mean, 20 minutes is convenient for anybody. But I'm curious your thoughts about the method. Was the fact that this is like a science-based methodology, did that have any factor in your decision making?
Absolutely. And I'd heard of slow motion strength training. Probably in one I used to read some science magazines, and I think there were articles about it.
Probably, yeah.
So I had heard the idea, and it's something that made a lot of sense to me. So it definitely does. And I think the results were really obvious really fast. But yeah, absolutely. I'm a kind of a science geek, and I'm a software engineer by day, and so that matters a lot to me. And I see other people. Um, it was kind of funny. Like I'll see a video or something, somebody working out. Like, well, if he just slow that down, it would go a lot better. So I'm kind of like one of these guys who watches people on the Food Network and criticizes their cooking.
Totally. You'll never look at exercise the same way again, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I even had Carlos shoot a video of one of my exercises, so I could show it to friends and show them like, this is what I do.
Oh, cool.
Like, because they didn't really necessarily comprehend. It's kind of a really boring video because it doesn't go very fast, but they get the idea, and it made a lot of sense once people saw it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Sometimes it's challenging to explain the method. I remember when I first became a trainer and I was still trying to figure out all the language and everything. And I'm like, you just got to try it. You just have to experience it for yourself to really understand how it's going to work for you.
I have a friend who's quite a bit younger. He's in his 20s, and I actually he was a bodybuilder, or at least a bit. He was in great shape, and I recommended him to come on board, and he actually did for a while. As a trainer.
Oh.
So, and he texted me after his interview where they gave him a workout, and said it was the hardest thing he'd ever done. So, and he was somebody who worked out every day and was super fit. So, yeah,
it's a game changer.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier, the results really kind of spoke for themselves, and we talked about your cycling being one of them. What other results have you experienced?
I had no shoulders at all. I had a little bit of bicep that showed, but not much. I had no shoulders. I had no chest. And I could see differences after 4 workouts.
Wow.
I could see body changes in just 2 weeks, and other people noticed within 6. So it was, and the other thing, this was actually huge. I had lived with low back pain for decades. Really, it was just kind of always there. And there was one day about 3 or 4 months after I started the program where I was talking with friends, and we were just standing outside talking, and I realized that my back didn't hurt, and I started thinking, and I realized it hadn't hurt all week.
Oh my gosh!
So, and I almost fell apart. It's a big deal.
That is a big deal.
I hurt my back this weekend putting that piece of furniture together. So it's a little sore right now, but that's been a big difference. Is not living with that pain, and it's just always there, just on a low level, and not having it is phenomenal.
That's incredible, because it's one of those unexpected benefits. You don't think, hey, I'm going to go start this personal training program. I'm probably going to get stronger, maybe put some muscles on, lose some weight, but you don't think that, like, man, this chronic pain that I've been living with for as long as I can remember.
It never crossed my mind, and then it just happened.
Yeah. If someone were to tell you that could happen for you when you first started the program, what would you have thought?
I probably would have believed them, but kind of just only superficially. I think it's one of those things, like, everybody talks about, there's all kinds of things, whether it's diet or exercise or whatever you do in your life, and they say, well, it'll make this is a real difference. It'll make, and it's, you kind of, it's not that you don't believe them. It's because it's clear that those things work and that they do happen, but it's different experiencing it for yourself than just reading about it or just hearing about it.
Yeah. Have there been any other like unexpected results or benefits or things that you've just maybe noticed you've been able to do?
Lifting things is definitely easier.
Well, yeah, you got some guns now.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy.
I
carry, well, like things like I'm also a musician, and like carrying boxes of music around, which I do from time to time. It just, carrying, it's just easier.
Yeah.
I can pick up people that I couldn't before. So that's kind of fun. I play piano for the Silicon Valley Game Ins Chorus and also a little bit for the San Francisco Game Ins Chorus. And there's a couple of the guys that are small enough, I can actually pick them up and carry them around. And so,
in case anybody needs personal transport.
Yeah. So there's just having fun with that.
Yeah. How do you see this added strength and I guess the elimination of pain transpiring, in the future, 10, 20 years from now?
Oh, it's hard to imagine how different it might be because it wasn't going to get any better, and it was only as I got older it was just going to get worse.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I had visions of me being in my 70s or 80s and hobbling around with a bad back all the time, and it's been on my mind since I was in my 20s when I first started having back trouble. So this is big. Yeah, it definitely feels. And the other thing too is I could see myself before I started the program. I could look in the mirror and I could see myself old. I mean, honestly, I felt like I looked old at the time, and much older than I actually was. And I just didn't like what I saw. So now it's not so bad.
No, you look incredible. And are you still scuba diving?
Yeah, I went on a trip to the Maldives in February, and I ended up with a cold the entire time and couldn't dive.
Oh.
So my last trip where I actually got to dive was in Bonaire last September. I was supposed to go to Fiji in October. I am supposed to go, but who knows at this point?
Yeah.
So,
Doug, what do you not do? Your life sounds amazing.
Well, those three things kind of fill it up pretty much. The music keeps me pretty busy when I'm not working. So
yeah. Has it helped your scuba diving at all? Have you used that?
Yes, actually. The tanks are heavy.
Yeah.
Underwater, I don't know that it's made a big difference because once you put fins on, you don't need a lot of strength. But I think my oxygen consumption is better, or my air consumption is better than it used to be because I always burn through air.
So it lasts longer?
Yeah, you can see that longer. And it's definitely easier because when you're on a boat, I mean, the boat's rocking, even it's anchored, but it's still gonna be rocking from the water, and you've got these giant things on your feet and all this weight on your back. Just to get across the boat and into the water, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's way harder than anything you do underwater. And then after you've been diving for 45 minutes or an hour, then you have to climb back on the boat. And you go up a ladder and get on board and everything with all this stuff still on. So that part of it was much easier. It's a lot easier to pick up the tanks and get them on and off and stand up and sit down, all that sort of stuff. My balance, I think, was better because I just had more strength for it. Yeah, so it really does help.
So I know that you've been doing virtual training. What did you think when we were like, hey, we're going to train you through Zoom instead of in the studio?
I was skeptical. I was really, it's like, I don't know how well this is going to work. And I don't have equipment here at home.
Like none?
No, none. And I've been trying to buy the Bowflex Select. You can't.
You can't. It's the new toilet paper.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I'm on the waiting list to get notified when.
Oh my gosh.
And I did that 6 weeks ago. So, but yeah, I don't have any equipment here, any training equipment at home, and I don't really have much room for even something like a treadmill, even or something like that, or a weight set. I just don't have any floor space. Yeah. If I had floor space, it's where my work desk would go, but instead it's in the living room. So I was really skeptical about how much we could do. And in the very first session, I walked around the house with the phone and Jeffrey and I looked at stuff and like what we could use. And I actually ended up using my scuba weights as weight. I have a total of about 25 pounds, and unfortunately they're not perfectly balanced. So 5 pounds I can't use, but and I put I put 10 pounds each in 2 different wine bags, wine totes. And those are my weights. So I use them like dumbbells.
I love it.
So it's, and between that and then using my own body weight for exercises.
Yeah.
These are harder workouts than I do in the studio.
You think so?
Oh my God, yes.
Why do you think that they're harder?
Well, I think part of it is that the machines you can set to be, to be exact what you need. And particularly things like the Gravitron, if I'm doing dips or something like that, it takes 100 pounds off my body weight or more, probably a lot more actually. And so it's really finely balanced. So trying to do reverse dips, do dips on chairs, my feet are on the floor, but it's really my whole upper body. And I'm heavy. When all of this is free form, I'm working the muscles in a lot of different directions, trying to hold things steady and also hold balance and all that sort of stuff. So, and I noticed that I've gotten used to it now. The sessions are still hard, but those first couple sessions just killed me. So, and I think the fact that I'm getting used to it shows that it's building my body in ways that I wasn't before. So I'm really impressed about how well it works and how much you can do with chairs and some scuba weights and wine bags.
Yeah, I love that. I love the repurposing of the scuba weights and the wine bag. Do you think for whatever reason you'll do virtual training in the future when we open the studios back up?
I'd almost like to have a mix, I think. And maybe not maybe do, if there was an option to do 2 weeks or do 2 sessions, do the normal 2 sessions in the studio, and then a session, either 1 or 2 sessions, different days at home. That might be appealing, I think.
Yeah. But like if you're like in Fiji, I don't know how that would work out time zone wise, but
Yeah, if I'm traveling, that's definitely, because usually when I'm traveling, I just miss my workouts.
Yeah.
It's kind of my sanctuary. The rest of the world disappears when I go in to do the workout. And it just, everything else, nothing else matters. And it's just this. And so it's a mental thing as well as a physical thing.
It's so much more than the physical benefit. It is an emotional and psychological experience, like a positive experience walking out of the sessions.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel even though I'm exhausted, I feel good. And I don't know if that's an endorphin high or not. I'm not sure I've ever experienced the endorphin high that people talk about.
Feeling good is feeling good.
Yeah, it feels good. I feel like I've accomplished something. Even the days where maybe I'm slightly run down or tired or had too much to drink the night before, which has happened. And I still feel like I get a good workout, and I still feel like I've accomplished something. So that, and I definitely feel better about that. And in general, it's kind of hard to pin down, but I just in general, I think I feel better.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel better about myself, about how I look, about how I feel. And so those are all big factors as well.
Yeah. So pre-perfect workout 3 years ago, how would you describe how you were feeling about yourself then?
Not good. My weight had been climbing for, I've never been particularly heavy. I was always one of those guys that I just didn't ever put on a lot of weight, but I was starting to. For the previous 4 or 5 years, my weight just sort of climbed a little bit. And then I had, I'm 6 feet tall, and I was up to about just over 220. And none of it was muscle. And that also contributed to my back hurting too.
Yeah, sure.
Front, and your back is trying to compensate. But my clothes, my performance clothes that I'd been wearing for years didn't fit anymore, all that kind of stuff. So, and I just felt blah.
And now you're feeling good. How long did it take? I mean, I know you said you started to notice some physical improvements within the first 4 sessions, but when was like the transition point where you're like, I feel good about myself. I feel strong.
It wasn't very long.
That's so cool.
I would say within, well, I mean, I felt the differences immediately. That's one thing. It's kind of sad that I didn't do any physical training or anything the rest of my life, because my body responds to it really, really well.
Yeah.
I know some people work their butts off and to get anything, and I can put on muscle really fast. I just never was. So I was seeing and feeling big differences with, within 4 or 5 months, probably, if even that long. I know that, oh gosh, yeah, it was really, really pretty quick. And early on, I saw a lot of changes. And there were things like Aurelio had to work with me on my shoulders. The very first session, we were doing flies, and my shoulders were the limiting factor. And I had, at one point earlier, like 30 years ago, I had slipped. I used to live in Kansas, and I'd slipped on ice and kind of torn I injured my rotator cuff. And that shows up still once in a while. And that was really a limiting factor, even with light weights. So he actually reworked my program to get my shoulders strengthened up, and we spent a lot of time focusing on that. And that's made a big difference. So that, and I know that's it's healthier for me too, because I'm not at risk of hurting myself.
Yeah. So you guys have been able to work around the rotator cuff injury and a knee injury, and you've still been able to put on a significant amount of muscle.
Yeah. I have psoriatic arthritis, so which is what's mostly going on with my knees. So they're not so much damage as they just hurt.
Yeah. You guys have been able to tailor it, customize it, personalize it as much as you need it to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What do you want people to know about the perfect workout?
It's worth it, but I just think it's fantastic, and it's completely non-threatening. I know a lot of women like to go there because of that. Gyms are not necessarily very women friendly sometimes, but certainly if you're like me and you don't know how to work out, or you're worried about hurting yourself, and those are all reasonable things to worry about, then definitely go in. It's just fantastic. Give it a try. Yeah. And don't I would say I put it off. I mean, I heard these ads and I was curious about it, because it's advertised a lot on the radio station I listen to in the car. So I was hearing the testimonials and the ads all the time, probably for several years actually before I.
Wow.
And I was intrigued that whole time, but I just wasn't sure, and I figured it would be too expensive for me, or actually not successful or whatever. But it works, and it's great, and it's worth it. Being a single gay man at this age, it's kind of there's a feeling that nobody is going to notice you, and people are noticing. So that's been a big, it's been a big boost in my self-esteem.
Yeah.
So it's definitely been worth every minute, and I miss the studio, and I miss Carlos and everybody, and I can't wait to see them again. So
yeah, what a beautiful journey you've been on. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.